President John Mahama has pushed for private sector to support him and help him bring about the needed economic transformation. He's also charged enterprises and investors that Ghana is ready for business. The president gave this assurance at his inaugural speech when he was sworn in as president of the land. So what do businesses actually make of this call by President John Mahama? Now, indeed, are they ready to join hands with the president to bring about the needed economic transformation? Well, on PM Express Business Edition, we're looking at assessing the president's pitch to businesses. What do they make of this call? Are they ready to join hands with the president to bring about the needed transformation of the economy? I'll be engaging the Chief Executive of the Association of Ghana Industries, Sechuma Kabwa, also Executive Secretary of the Real Estate Association, and also CEO of Delex. All these personalities wrapped up as you look at the pitch by President John Mahama and their response. All these issues wrapped up on PM Express Business Edition. Right back after this break. And welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we look at President John Mahama's speech. If you followed him during his inauguration a few days ago, he made some commitment to businesses out there. The bit about the fact that he needed them to come on board to help with the transformation of the Ghanaian economy. And also the bit about Ghana is ready for business. Has Ghana ever been closed for business or not as well? These are some of the things I'll be getting from my guests who are joining me live in studio here. So Sechuma Kabwa is the Chief Executive Association of Ghana Industries. He's live with me in studio and also Executive Secretary of the Ghana Real Estate Association as well. Mr. Megaibo is also here with me in studio. Also on Zoom will be the Chief Executive of Delex as well. I'll call him Uncle Jackson. Is on Zoom as well to get the thoughts of these eminent persons about the thoughts of the business community in terms of what do they make of President's pitch that come on board, private sector, going to be a major focus of he trying to reset the economy and all those things. And let's just take a look at some of the most key things that the president actually said on that day. And he's talked about the fact that shifting within a system of a global, and he actually admitted about the fact that indeed we are in quite a challenging time, not just in Ghana, but even the global economy as well, when you look at the fact that the G7 nations and what they are actually going through, and also the fact that they need to focus their efforts on four critical economic that is restriction, transformation, stabilizing the macroeconomic environment. That's those I'll be getting some thought from my guests in here. Improving the business environment and investment environment, governance, and also constitutional reform. Those are the political areas as well. And also the vision hinges on the introduction of the almighty 24-hour economy and the fact that they envisage on innovation, a vibrant 24-hour economy, which will also be attached on agricultural sector, agribusiness. The innovation approach will be unlocking potentials that would long actually help in enabling the environment for them as well. Imagine a Ghana where the markets are actually alive. So basically, making a very critical point that, you know, how this much talked about 24-hour economy could help turn things around. And you can see the text there and what the president said with respect to the 24-hour economy as well, and those things that he actually said about there in terms of what this will do. And also to business leaders and entrepreneurs, I invite you, and I'll say Sechuma Kabwa and his colleagues, to support the new model and join me in shaping the business environment where creativity thrives and where the fruits of your investment contribute to collective welfare of the nation. And with your role in driving the economy forward, it cannot be overstated. Your innovation and dedication will be the backbone of the success story, and pledge to you businesses that will look at how to actually review the tax regime and also rationalize tax. I know that's going to be one of the biggest concerns of businesses out there. So that is the pitch coming from President John Mahama to businesses out there. But before we get deep into the things that the president said, I mean, something that's broke today. The president actually announced one of his key ministers being the energy and then finance as well. They nominated these persons. Dr. Ato Forson. He is being nominated for the Finance Ministry as well. It'll be good to get your thought from my guest in studio and even on Zoom. So, but let me first start with Chimakoba. This is a person that then I'll say that all other things being equal, holding all these variable constant, if Dr. Ato Forson is confirmed by Parliament, he is expected to be the Finance Minister. But what are your expectations? So, what do you make of this nomination?
Well, thank you very much and good evening.
Good evening and Happy New Year as well. It's the first time we're meeting this year, right?
Exactly, exactly. So Happy New Year to your viewers as well. Indeed, the nomination of Dr. Ato Forson as Finance Minister is not a surprise. It's not a surprise in the sense that he's been there before. He was a Deputy Minister for Finance. And in his days, I think he did a good job. And whilst in Parliament, he was virtually the spokesperson on finance for the NDC. And therefore, he was really tipped to be a finance minister. So it's not a surprise at all. As to whether he will be confirmed or not, I believe that it's a done deal.
If you look at what has happened, it's basically
Parliament and everything. And also, let's don't take any credit from him. He has worked his way through, so he has what it takes to be a finance minister. Not just because they have the numbers to confirm him, but I think on merit, he's solid. And therefore, I think it's really a welcome development. And you know, for industry and for AGI, one of the key ministries of government that we work very closely with is Ministry of Finance.
Trade and Finance, yeah.
Apart from trade, we work very closely with finance because a lot of our issues, the tax issues and everything, borders on finance. And therefore, he's one person we are seeking to engage very strongly.
Let me look at quickly your expectation of him.
In terms of his
since you're looking into the crystal ball and think that he is going to be confirmed, you know, what are you looking for the charge to Dr. Ato Forson from industries?
I think the key part of his role as a finance minister is to bring stability in the macroeconomic environment. And that is number one. That is key. So we expect that with this. And I had the opportunity of meeting him at some point during one of our advocacy issues on diapers and all that. We met him as a minority leader. And he really espoused very solid principles that I believe with those background and experiences, he should be able to do very well. So we expect that he'll bring stability because he talked a lot about economic stability. We spoke about the IMF, and he felt that IMF deals should be renegotiated. So I'm not surprised they are talking about it now. So I expect that some of those critical areas of economic development will be done. I also expect that he would also push for value for money for every transaction because, you see, the finance ministry is key when it comes to government transactions. All key loans and borrowings that we do, it's all done around. Every ministry goes through the Ministry of Finance to even contract major loans. And therefore, I expect that he puts principles down and ensure that there's value for money for everything we do. So economic stability, helping to project into the near future how the economy is going to run, and then also bringing confidence to the economy, especially for businesses, is key. Because if they have confidence, they invest. If they have confidence, they rally around and bring investors from all over the world and help push the economy to the levels that we want and create the jobs. So as a finance minister, I have no less expectation than he stabilizing the economy, making sure that government finances are okay, and then also I know energy minister is there, but it all boils down to him as well. The energy sector, debt and everything will be well managed, and then we'll have a smooth running economy that private sector will be keen and eager to work with.
Mr. Magaibo, real estate, what is the charge to Dr. Ato Forson if he is confirmed by Parliament? But it looks like Mr. Kobwa, he's looked into the crystal ball, looking at the shape of Parliament, he will sail through. But your charge to Dr. Ato Forson, if he's watching us right now, what is your charge to him?
Thank you for the opportunity and Happy New Year as well. And then congratulations to His Excellency, the President. I agree almost 100% with Mr. Akabwa for his submission. And we are no different industry. We are also part of industry, manufacturing of a house. So we belong to this association. So for the nomination of Ato Forson, I think it is in order. I have known Ato Forson from the days in 2014 when NDC slapped VAT on real estate. And we protested, petitioned government, and somehow he became part of the team that was dealing with us on the issue. And I have seen him grow, mature, and his submissions, his insight and understanding of the system, it seems to have gotten better. And obviously, as you can see from the NDC themselves, when they decided to make a shift in who the leadership is, they told you that somebody is coming to deal with the economic issues. And it was Atoforson who was brought there. And I think he has delivered quite remarkably. And for his nomination, it's not in doubt.
What is your charge to him? I mean,
for the charge to him, I will first of all remind him that he was part of the group that slapped the VAT on us. And then NPP came into power and took it off. And then NPP brought it back just 1 year before they lost the election. So I want to refer this matter back to him, that in his pronouncement of nuisance taxes, we, the real estate industry, will expect that the VAT, 5% VAT that has been brought back will be reviewed. If it cannot be taken off completely, looking at our current circumstance with the IMF conditionalities and all, then we can look at a review where perhaps there will be a threshold where this tax will be applicable. But that was something we started the negotiation with the current, the immediate past government, and somehow we didn't get anywhere with it. I'm sure because of the IMF conditionalities. But I agree with Sets almost on that.
But one thing I draw from the two of your submissions, also the key about tax, and in the president's pitch or his speech, inaugural speech, he made clearly to try to review the whole tax structure. But looking at in the milieu or revenue challenges and all the rest, we'll be seeing how that is feasible. Let me go on Zoom and engage CEO of DLX. Basically, your charge to Dr. Atoforson.
Talk to you once again, George. Listen, one of the things we've known Dr. Atoforson for is his cool head. And that is pleasing in this time where this country has been brought to its knees and we are getting out of a particularly bad economic downturn. There's going to be a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of emotions. There are going to be mini crises and large crises. Look at what happened over the last 2 days over energy and Doomsaw. We appreciate his cool head. And we say, keep that cool head. And we ask for wisdom and strength to take the hard decisions that are definitely going to be required in the days ahead. But his cool head, the cool head of Dr. Atoforson, would definitely hold him in good stead as finance minister if it's confirmed.
Before I come in studio, quickly, I just want to also get from you as well, in terms of, before we get into the president's pitch or request to the private sector, how is your space doing when it comes to the financial sector, savings and loans and all the rest? Can you describe it as a very interesting, challenging? What is the state of, we had the former president present the state of the economy or state of the nation. What is the state of your financial sector?
Well, it's a mixed bag. Remember that after the domestic debt exchange program, a lot of the institutions have had to go through a recapitalization process. And that is ongoing. Some institutions are further advanced than others. But the good thing is this: profitability is being restored to the sector. So even whilst balance sheets are being fixed, the profit and loss accounts are looking healthy. So there are good things happening, and it's not the worst sector in the country right now.
Interesting. Since studio here, I mean, Mr. Chumakobwa, how are industries doing? I mean, I look at the third quarter GDP estimates, interesting dynamics happen there. Is it fair to look at those numbers and make a judgment that the industrial sector is turning the corner? Or
Well, this word of turning the corner has come up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that practically speaking, if you look at the numbers for last year and compared to the year before, we really had crisis over the past 2 to 3 years or so with all the global challenges that we had. And last 2 years was terrible. At some point, inflation was as high as 54% and so on and so forth. So last year, if you compare to the year before, we saw some significant improvement, especially early part of the year. Along the line, we saw the cedi depreciating, and therefore it affected, the mood again. But it wasn't as bad as the previous year. So ending the year, we saw, especially in Q2 and Q3, we saw some significant improvement in the macroeconomic conditions again. If you look at it, you see that inflation was dropping early part of the year until just November. That was, it rose up a little. But averagely speaking, I think inflation was improving. Exchange rate, we had some challenges around the mid-year, thereabout. But getting to the latter part of the year, it improved again. The pressure on the cedi came down because Bank of Ghana did some good interventions. So if you put it all together, last year compared to the year before was not as bad. But then, generally speaking, if you look at the numbers, clearly we're still not out of the woods. Because
interesting.
Oh, seriously, because, we are talking of inflation, end of November inflation of about 23-something%. Policy rates currently is about 27%. So you can imagine what interest rates will be for businesses. So if you put it all together, it's been a challenging economy for the past few years. And last year wasn't an exception, except that last year was slightly better than the year before.
In terms of demand, how are things also looking like in terms of demand? I've seen a lot of things happen in the last quarter, rounding up to Christmas. Have we seen a pickup in terms of demand for the stuff that you're producing, from consumables to other stuff as well, or it is still a challenge?
We actually saw an improvement significantly latter part of the year.
In terms of demand for
demand for goods. As we talk to our industries and our members all the time.
What are they saying?
And at the beginning of the year, there were a lot of uncertainties. Along the line, when we had a bit of stability, things started improving. Then the cedi depreciation came in, so it made prices of goods go up. And when it went up like that, it affected effective demand. A latter part of the year, which is also normal during Christmas period.
As well, yeah.
Then this one, I think that it went beyond Christmas because most of the industries we spoke to at the time saw some improvement in demand. But I think that when they are talking of improvement, sometimes you are comparing to a certain base. And if they compare to the immediate past, then there was actually real effective.
So the fact is that demand have picked up significantly in the last quarter. Then you will still want to hold a Christmas festivity constant, or as how did Christmas also play in that one as well?
Definitely, Christmas played a role. It played a role because around Christmas, people buy more. Services are better patronized. People are prepared to spend a lot more, so there's more money in the system. And normally, we also shouldn't take away the election dimension. That normally, when it's getting to election year, there's a lot more money pumped into the system. Both opposition and government are all doing campaign. There's so many things that's going on, and definitely it increases the money supply in the system. It has its own implication, but generally speaking, a lot more money comes into the people's hands. And therefore, these two elements, the elections, the Christmas, and I think generally speaking, because we had also achieved a bit of stability, it gives some confidence to people, and therefore there was actually...
Do you think that what has happened is sustainable going forward, or is just a flash? Because from what you are saying, this is not just a spike, but a sustained improvement. Do you see the situation being sustained going into this year, or it's still early days yet?
It's still early days yet, but there's a possibility of at least consolidation. Sustainability depends on what we...
I'm talking about the demand in terms of the demand.
The demand will still be there, but you see, the problem has always been the competing factors. In January, for example, people are not going to be paying school fees. So their demand for goods generally would come down. And if you follow the trend, it is always like that. However, I think that we've come into new regime. New government is taking over. There's a lot of optimism. President himself is espousing positiveness, encouraging people to work hard, opening the economy for businesses to come in. So those hopes, brings a new dimension. And I think that that should help improve and consolidate the demand improvement that we saw. a lot depends on what we'll be doing in the coming days, weeks, and months. I think normally when there's a new government or there's a new year, people are very hopeful. And I always cite this from the AGI Business Barometer. Anytime you have even the worst immediate economic environment, the expectations are always high. And Ghanaians are very optimistic in everything they do. So I believe that we should go with that optimism and expect that this year we'll be able to consolidate whatever gains we had last year and continue with it. So I believe it should work out. And I think the last thing any business would wish for a government is to wish for the government to fail. No business person will do that. Because you have invested your time, you have invested your money, your energy and everything. So you want to support every government in power to succeed. Because their success is your success. And therefore, businesses are hoping that the government will succeed. And whatever they will do to help government succeed, they will have to do so. And I think that if you put it together, I expect a bit more optimism than being negative.
Mr. Megaibo, I mean, I see if I could even use East Legon as a measure. I've seen a lot of houses construction going on, real estate. So it's fair to say that your sector is doing very well.
Well, it may be so, but I'm not too sure if
okay, tell me if that means
because a portion or a group of my people, when you meet them, they tell you, oh, they are doing business, a lot of business now. Another group will say, oh, Enyakra. Now, what we find out is that because the financial system was breaking down at a point, we think that some people decided to make some investment into real estate. And as you may know, in Ghana, real estate hardly depreciates. Yeah. If worst case scenario, it will stay in the balance, but it hardly depreciates. So I think a few people found it more prudent to put their money in that area. So you see a lot of structures going on. As to whether they are selling at the same rate as they are building, I'm not sure about that. Because even those that have built for occupancy, rental, for example, are not having the occupancy rate as high as it used to be. Before COVID, people could do 80, 90%. And then when COVID came, it dropped significantly to around 40 and 50. But now it may be around 60. If the best case scenario might be 70. So it tells you that we have still not recovered to the levels that we were. And then we are also in the business of not producing supermarket item where in 24 hours.
24-hour economy.
Yes. 24 hours, a product is there, and then you just dispose of it. We are a long-term gestation period for hatching and handing over project. And so when there are inflationary issues, the economic stability is terrible. And it also interests you to know that most of our product is bought or consumed by people using surplus income. So if the person has not eaten, his health is not good. He's not thinking about investing into a place like real estate. So when the macroeconomic is bad, it generally affects our sales. And so as my brother just put it, that things are picking up slowly. We are also feeling it. It's picking up slowly. But things like the cost of building materials, which caused our senior minister to rush to pass an LI for cement, for example, is one major problem that is facing our industry. That the cost of building materials today compared to 2-3 years back is significantly high. And the issue of mortgage, if you look at our mortgage penetration, it is sinking because most of the people's affordability has gone down.
I see.
If you look at houses, most of us price indexing it to the dollar. Not because we want to take your dollar, but it is because of the inflationary and fluctuations in the system. That is the only way by which we can sustain our businesses. So if you look at what the prices are going now and look at the affordability of people, especially those who depend heavily on mortgage to buy our houses, a lot of people have been priced out. It's either you find a percentage of the money to deposit and then you finance the rest with a mortgage. But to go for a fresh mortgage for most of our people, it was difficult. That was why we said that now slapping 5% VAT on already constrained situation was a bit difficult. Somebody who could not even afford $100,000 rate house, you are adding 5%. It means that if 70 people could afford a mortgage when the price was 100,000, because you have added 5% to it, it has gone to 105. It drops that qualification category of people to about 70. And then 30% would have just lost that opportunity to sign on to mortgage. So when we don't have a stable economic situation, it is very difficult for the real estate developer. And most of the time I've been on this, your studio, and I have explained that you are building a house. You start the foundation buying the cement at 40 cedis. When you are doing the next level to lintel, you are buying the cement at 60 cedis. When you are plastering, it is 80. And then when you are handing over the house, you are buying cement at 100 and something. How do you even price the house? So it makes it very difficult when we have this kind of terrain. But like my brother said also, we are in a new era. There's a new government. It got to a point, things were just stacked. You can't go nowhere.
Certainty.
I mean, the uncertainty was too much. But with the new breath of government in place, the goodwill, we are seeing what is happening. I mean, everybody is breathing a bit, and we can see the signs. The president is preaching, encouraging businesses to come to his table, and we want to believe that there will be more engagements with the sector players for all of us to judge and agree on the policy direction and the way forward. There are times where we sit in our businesses, in our offices, and we hear news of tax, impositions, and things that the industry players were never consulted, like the VAT thing that I'm telling you about. We just hear it on news. In both government situations.
So more consultation.
More consultation.
I'll be coming
so
back.
That you can get the bite from us before they enact the policy in itself. If you don't consult us and you bring this policy, it comes to hurt us.
A charge to Dr. to force leave is indeed approved by Parliament. Let me get on to Zoom and engage the CEO of DLX as well. For you, dipping into President John Mahama's pitch to businesses, come on board, let's build the economy. What do you make of this pitch? Some are saying that he could make that good pitch, speaking that pitch, but is the reality on the ground also supporting that I'm ready for business, I'm ready to partner you guys, businesses, to grow the economy? Uncle Joe.
Listen, the commitment has been made. There's no doubt about it. What we're waiting for is really how that commitment will translate in reality. What different is this government going to do so that that commitment is made? Some of it has been elaborated. It says, listen, for example, it says there'll be tax reform and tax will be fair and transparent. He talks about supporting business growth and encouraging investment. They talk about the 24-hour economy and animating local industries and creating
Mr.
jobs.
Mr. Is here. I'll come to him on that, but you go ahead, sorry.
And attracting investment. That is good. But we want to see, in a lot of ways, some of us are waiting for the first budget. Because the first budget will tell us what differently they're doing to achieve these things they've talked about. When the budget comes out, we'll see whether the taxes in there, or the taxes that have been removed have made it growth friendly. So the budget is key. When the budget comes out, we'll see whether the environment is now growth friendly. The environment encourages us to create jobs. Because frankly, the government cannot create enough jobs. Jobs are going to be created in the private sector. The most jobs are going to be created most probably in the SME sector. So if the business climate is good, if the government creates a fair platform for all businesses to operate, and it promotes growth of the businesses, then we'll see the jobs happen. Then we'll see the boost that they're attributing to the 24-hour economy happen. But it won't happen by accident. It will happen because there are intentional, deliberate policies that have been outlined and followed up that are different from what we are seeing in the past years that will enable us businesses grow. The key thing we're looking for is that budget.
And for you, I get from you that the 2025 budget that will be presented by Dr. Atuforsun will be a test of President John Mahama's commitment to the private sector.
On the button, exactly. That is going to be the first test. Because anyway, it's the budget, that's the instrument that the government is going to use. We're going to see where the taxes are going. We're going to see what new taxes are going to be introduced or taxes that are going to be taken out. We're going to see a measure of what reliefs that they're going to give to innovation, to growth. What measure of reliefs they're going to give to companies that have targeted youth employment. Part of the promise says we will target the industries that engage with the youth. The budget will tell us a lot. And at this moment, we look forward eagerly to that first budget because that will demonstrate the commitment of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to the speech that he's made.
Uncle Joe, I mean, we are businesses that have engaged are excited, but have we forgotten that we are under an IMF program in all this excitement and the fact that your hands are quite tight and also the fact that people are excited about taxes? Yesterday we had the Gutta president now making a case that these taxes should not be actually removed because government should need revenue to grow the economy. Should your expectations be measured in terms of what you're looking forward to because of the fact that at the bigger angle, there's an IMF program, and therefore, even though the president has insisted that these taxes should be removed, the reality is that under a program, there's little you can do.
Listen, it depends on which taxes are removed and which incentives are given. We are under an IMF program. The good thing is that there's a strong indication that there will be some renegotiation to give the people of Ghana some relief. We expect that the reliefs will be, whatever reliefs will be obtained, it is the private sector that will be prioritized because it is the private sector that will really animate the 24-hour economy. It is the private sector that will provide the jobs that the people of Ghana desire. So we expect that within the context of how dire the public purses, within the context of an IMF program, within the context of renegotiating the IMF program, the private sector will be prioritized so that we can deliver the innovation, the growth, the jobs that this economy requires.
Let me come quickly to the studio. I mean, Mr. Tumakobwa, are you excited? Because there's a bit in his pitch to businesses about supporting local industries. And some will say that this is not the first time we've heard that from a government or administration about the deliberate effort to support local industries. What is about this pitch that gets you excited that, okay, we are hoping for the best when it comes to supporting local industries?
I think the mere fact that you have the president espousing a certain policy direction and it resonates with you is good for you as an industry and as businesses. And therefore, in our discussions with him during and prior to the elections,
pre-elections, yeah.
Yes, these are some of the things we tabled very strongly. That if you're able to get your industries working, if you're able to get agriculture working very well and connecting the two seriously, and then the service sector impacting on industry, you will then be able to create the jobs and have the economic stability you want. And therefore, President today, making mention of the importance of industry for us is positive and is very good. But as Mr. Jackson said, the sweetness of the pudding is in the eating.
Are you also looking forward to the budget as well?
We're looking very much to the budget.
And we be so excited because the fund program again could tiger.
We are cautiously optimistic. As I said earlier, we are an optimistic people. Otherwise, why would we be in business? If you are not sure of the business environment and not sure of getting some returns on investment, why would you invest in the first place? So we are beginning the year with a bit of optimism. However, we are being cautious because one, we are under IMF conditions. So some of the taxes that he mentioned prior to the elections and said they are going to scrap it and all that, we are being very careful here because On one hand, you can scratch on the taxes, but it will come in another
form.
So we are cautious about that. But I believe in the tax rationalization that he talks about. And it depends on how you manage it. We have always said that there are ways of managing the tax system. You know, some tax systems are very, very counterproductive to industry, for example. The current VAT regime is completely not favorable to industry.
Real estate has complained as well about it. Sorry.
We've always been talking about it because you cannot have tax on tax. You cannot have a VAT regime that a certain percentage you can't recover and you call it VAT. That's not VAT. That's a levy. So, and if you put it together, it's very high. And you also have pre-production tax, which can be then extended to post-production, and that will make you more productive because it makes you more competitive. So how you rationalize it is very important. Let's talk about exemptions. For example, it's been bastardized, you know, generally speaking, that exemptions are bad and all that. We don't look at it that way. We want us to do the deep work, the critical analysis of the whole exemption regime. Because, for example, as a manufacturer, if you import machines and you are not selling the machines, you are bringing the machines to produce and sell. The taxes should be on the goods that you have produced and sold out, but not the machine you are bringing. And yet today, when you are bringing a machine to produce, you have to pay VAT, you have to pay duty on it. And therefore, if there's a room that says you should get an exemption, what is wrong with it? Except that you have to go through a process, but the process must end at some point. Because we go around the world canvassing for investment to come into the country. When we are competing globally for investment, so when you are encouraging investors through incentives and then they get here, you must provide it. And it's not only for foreigners, it's also for local producers. And therefore, if we have a government that says, I want to support the industry sector, and he will discuss issues of this nature with us, and we point out critical areas that when we improve, it will significantly improve production and therefore industry and create the jobs. We will welcome it. So I think that there's a lot that can be done. And in the tax regime, the same thing applies. You know, we have different tax, for example, last year, we negotiated very strongly for the zero VAT, for the diapers and the rest, and zero VAT for textiles. And it's making significant impact. This has been there for a couple of years. Those kind of arrangement, if you do it, and you do it very well, it will impact positively on industry.
Mr. Kwabo, how bad is the tax regime in Ghana? And I'll get the thought of Temegai Boy as well, that your members, what are they telling that even to the extent that we had reports that it is influencing decisions of some of your members to even relocate to other neighboring countries as well? I mean, every country is facing that problem. And some will say that isn't it just a strategy by businesses just to avoid, even Apple today or some time ago was complaining about a tax regime in Ireland because they were trying to tax them. If you look at the profits Apple makes, I mean, maybe I might be coming from an uninformed position, but isn't it always been a strategy of businesses to lessen their tax obligations?
I don't think so. To the extent that it can influence investors' decision or businesses' decision to either scale down or collapse their business, means that it has a very serious biting effect.
And what is the situation in Ghana?
The situation in Ghana is that our tax regime today is not in the best of shape. One is very high. I mean, if you import typical raw materials, and I have the import, bill. When you import and look at the declaration, about 52% of the value of items you have imported goes into taxes. So it is very huge. The other aspect of the taxes is the unfairness in it. If I, for example, I'm a major distributor or operator, and I have a shopping mall or something, and then I'm selling, because I operate in the formal sector, I put VAT on it. You go next door, somebody is operating from, say, a smaller shop, the same item, you buy there, and there's no VAT on it. So difference in VAT of 21%, so what do you think will happen? And therefore, what we're saying is that there's the need to rationalize it. So if you're asking how bad it is, no business can run away from taxes. Every business, wherever you go, you pay taxes. And we need the taxes. And we will not in any way sit down here and say, scrap all taxes. It's not possible. But we are talking of rationalization in a way that supports your core businesses that have positive multiplier effect. I talked about shifting taxes, for example, from pre-production to post-production. If, for example, you charge me corporate tax, and I remember when Nanado came into power, one of the negotiations we did at the time was to reduce taxes. At the very beginning of his term, a lot of taxes were reduced. And then corporate tax was one of those that they were targeted. At some point, we ourselves gave in and said, don't touch the corporate tax because it is post-production. It's after my profit is made. But when you tax me before the profit is made, it makes me less competitive. And when you have competition from imports and at all levels, and you are not that efficient in your production because of the challenges you have in your environment, production systems and all that, it makes you very competitive in the market, and you lose market share. And therefore, tax realignment, tax rationalization, taxing more of, for example, imported finished goods compared to locally produced ones, it's in order. So it all depends on how you manage the tax system. We are not saying that tax is not good. Tax is good, but manage it in a way that supports your core productive sector. Give more incentives to those who go into agriculture. Give more incentive to those who go to industry. Give more incentive to those who are in the productive sector that have bigger and longer value chain and multiplier effects. When you do that, then it will not be inimical to production, it will not be inimical to business, but rather you can tax them at the end. At some point in the chain, you pay the taxes anyway. Either you pay before, you can't run away from it, but make it easy for me to pay so that when I pay, my business will still go on, and I'll give whatever it is that is due government to government.
I mean, how bad is the situation when it comes to tax? Because in the president's speech, he's spoken about trying to rationalize the tax system. Is it also bad for you, or you as post-production, so it's okay for you when it comes to the real estate industry?
Not at all. In my earlier submission, I started talking about the effect of building materials. We are over 70% dependent on importation for most of our houses that we build. And so if taxes are slapped on this importation, for example, we will buy them at those high costs. And then if you look at within Ghana, you realize that we haven't done well with supporting our industries to provide what we need to support ourselves locally. And so if taxes, everyday taxes, businesses cannot expand. Somebody starts a small business, it doesn't even brief. The next thing is that GRA is on their neck. They don't even find out from them whether they are doing well or not. I mean, if you go to other countries, their tax collection agencies even have free consultation, people who can come to your business and come and help you to grow. We don't have this here. You start a business, as I said, 1 year down the line, GRA will be knocking on your door to come and collect tax. And these things don't work well for us. And if it comes to job creation, it is the businesses that are going to employ the people for jobs. And if we continue to tax them and price them out of the market, and then you realize that most foreign competitors here have a free, they have it easy from wherever they are coming from. We have some of our real estate competitors, for example, complaining about certain foreign real estate companies in Ghana because these people are borrowing 3%, 5% from wherever they are coming from and investing in Ghana. And we are borrowing the dollar at around 15 to 16% and borrowing CD over 30%. How can we become competitive to this group? So I think the tax reforms and review is very critical. We are also not saying that taxes should be scrapped or completely. In the past, we were demanding that the VAT should be completely scrapped. We are seeing the conditionality now. Our situation, we are saying that, look, let us at least have a threshold in the name of affordable purchasing, affordable housing. Can we say, for example, first 50,000 or up to 100,000 as a threshold where the tax will not be applicable, will be exempted, so that anybody who can afford 100,000 or more, 200,000, 300,000, if you go and ask him for 5%, it will be easy for him to pay. But those who are below the ladder, who are struggling to buy houses below this threshold, we think that they should be exempted from the tax. And they will still be able to collect. Like Akwabwa said, if you don't make tax easy to be collected, and you make it complicated, people work around it and they rather
lessen the obligations.
Yes, and they rather, sometimes they avoid. Either they avoid or invade taxes. So you should make it friendly, make it easily collectible. And double taxation is also one of the problems. If I'm buying cement, I'm buying iron rod, tax on tax. I'm buying iron rod. They have collected VAT on all these products already. Now I put this together and build a house, and you are telling me that the final purchaser should also pay additional tax for buying the house again. It makes it too much, too difficult to breathe.
President John Mahama talked about Ghana being open for business.
Yeah.
There's a sense of the FDI and investor attraction also in this statement as well. For you, does it also give you some excitement because if the capital are coming in, it has an impact on the sector, has an impact on people who are coming in to do business and they have to buy houses, they have to stay in these houses. What signal does this send to you when he's telling the investor community that we are open for business?
Yeah, we should be open for business, but we should be open cautiously.
Are you worried that
Yes, I made references to where external, people from other countries are getting access to funding and are coming in and competing with the local guys and pricing them out. So we need to guard against it. So we need some policies that will not come and kill the local industry, but will strengthen them and make them more competitive. And so we need to look at some of the laws. Akwaboah is more vested in this area when it comes to those taxes, more than I am. And so that the local companies will be competitive and will be able to sustain. And then you are talking about this 24-hour economy. 24-hour economy cannot operate on industries that are dying.
I'll be coming more, be doing more on the... Let me bring in Joe Jackson as well. When the president talks about Ghana is now open for business, has Ghana ever been shut for business? And for you, how do we take the statement and the portion of the president charging businesses in this country, charging businesses outside that Ghana is open for business as well? And I'll come back to you. And then and for you, Mr. Akwaboah, how do you take that posture or proposal from the president? I asked myself about, has Ghana ever been shut for business?
Well, I think it's a welcome statement. A welcome statement in the sense that he's a new president. He must bring new enthusiasm. He must inspire confidence. He must inform the people that, hey, I'm in for business. And therefore, making that statement, I think it's a very positive one. This is not to say that Ghana has ever been shut for business. Businesses are going on, except that we want to improve, we want to upscale, we want to do business, we want to expand, we want to venture into other areas, we want to go to other markets and all that. So there's always room and a bigger scope of business that we can do. And therefore, if a president comes in and says, we are open for business, my understanding of it is that whatever you are doing, can we upscale? Can we do more of it? Can we venture into more areas? But then saying so is one thing, and being able to achieve that is another. And achieving it requires a whole lot of things. Those deep discussions we are going to go into it with government itself, with the various ministers that will be appointed. But the critical thing is that you are encouraging businesses to come and do more business. And here we are not really looking at foreign direct investment or foreign businesses, it's local businesses as well. And that's where we have to sit down and say, what do we do to make sure that businesses can thrive?
And when we draw the line again between, deliberately helping local industries and also not shutting the door to the FDI, because it's always a big challenge for managers of the economy.
I don't think it's that big a challenge because you have laws, you have policies that you can actually put in place. In the petroleum industry, they've set up a local content committee, and they're always looking at specific businesses that is not so much sophisticated to do. It doesn't require so much capital. It doesn't require any special expertise. You can reserve it for local businesses and still generate competition amongst them. There are certain products in the Ghanaian environment that you can really protect. And sometimes, I work with manufacturers a lot, and I can tell you that sometimes it's not so much the question of competition. It is the fairness in the trade area. There are people who are producing here. You go to the market, and there's influx of these products coming into the market. And if you look at the prices at which they are selling it, they're actually selling below cost. So there's no way the local producer can compete. And that is an unfair trading. So we think that even if you're able to police the borders and ensure fair trading alone, you will catapult most of these businesses to another level. So sometimes they are not asking for too much. They're asking for what is legitimate, what is right to do, and what is going to help the economy.
They're asking for fair trade.
Fair trade is very key. And then if you take the ICT industry, for example, I was speaking to my ICT sector chair, and he says in Ghana, we generate about 900 to almost 1 billion ICT businesses. A lot of it goes to foreign enterprises. Meanwhile, we have software developers, we have people who can do a lot of the things we are procuring. Can we ring-fence it and say, let's generate these expertise locally. And there are so many young people who are doing this. Today, there's business processing outsourcing.
Yeah.
A lot of it is running into billions. Can we make sure that we create the environment and encourage our people to go? Foreigners can do their own businesses, but the local people can be supported to do it.
This is the PM Express Business Edition. As we look at the president's pitch to the private sector and whether indeed they are ready to come on board to support the government to achieve its objective of, again, making the private sector the engine of growth. When we come back, we'll look at the almighty 24-hour economy. The president has even nominated Gusitano to actually lead that sector. What do they make of this? Is the environment ready for this? Should it be a demand-driven program or a deliberate program by government to encourage businesses and create the required job? This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break.
Hello?
Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we assess President John Mahama's pitch to businesses out there. And what do they make of this pitch by the president? Is it encouraging? Are they motivated by that? And are they prepared to come on board to support the president to turn around the economy? Let me quickly go on Zoom and engage Joe Jackson, because he'll be leaving us very soon whilst I come back to my guest in studio. They talk about 24-hour economy. Some have argued that it should be demand-driven. What do you make of this policy proposal by the president, making one of these most focal points for the reset of the Ghanaian economy?
Listen, the 24-hour economy definitely needs a demand component that you cannot throw away. Listen, as we said, do some businesses not run 24 hours? Yes, they do. What we understand is this: there's going to be a deliberate, intentional effort to get businesses to boost capacity, work for longer hours, and do more things. Now, we can't just produce for it to sit. Whatever we produce must be purchased. Somebody must be prepared to pay for it. So in that sense, it has to be demand-driven. But it is the deliberate effort of government to create an environment where businesses will be encouraged to produce more, because they will also help drive demand, also help create the environment that will encourage businesses to produce. That's the difference. But if you don't have demand, you don't have anything.
How should this administration tread cautiously with this program that it doesn't become one of those programs? Because if you listen to the president's speech, it appears that that turnaround will hinge on this program.
Listen, it's their flagship program. It's the program that's supposed to create jobs, boost employment, everything. So it must be done.
Before I let you go again,
but listen, let me put it another way. Just like an English Premier League team that changes coaches, there's a burst of optimism. There's a burst of goodwill and a rebound. What I'm expecting to happen is that rebound will be harnessed. That rebound will be used to create that environment that will encourage all of us to invest and do more. After all, it is the business sentiment that will encourage us. It is access to credit that will encourage us. It is access to markets that will encourage us. There's a lot that can be done. And we're expecting that these are some of the issues that will be tackled by the secretariat that we think is going to be created for the 24-hour economy, to be headed by Guzitando, talking about how do we make access to credit easier and cheaper across all the various stakeholders. How do we make access to markets easier and cheaper for all the stakeholders? And I could go on and on. How do we make regulation and red tape fall lighter on our shoulders? How do we make taxes, where possible,
Mr. Jackson, before I let you go,
it can be done.
Yeah.
But we are looking towards that secretariat.
Before I let you go, quick one on the Ghana CD and what should be this administration posturing in the stability. We've seen some blips already over the past 2 days as well. Q1 pressure, which is always perennial. What should be the approach? Should they stick to the status quo? How should this optimism also feed into the stability of the local currency, especially for Q1, where we are used to those perennial pressure on the local currency?
Well, there's some things that don't bode well for the currency. The first thing is the reduced output of cocoa, because cocoa has been a mainstay of the currency. So the cocoa issue should be tackled very quickly. The second thing is that another mainstay of this economy is gold. And the Galamsey issue has brought a shadow over a cloud over gold. So look at Galamsey, look at cocoa, and that will help stabilize the city.
Uncle Jackson, I appreciate your time. Let me come back to this today. And I've asked this question about this 24-hour economy being demand-driven and all that. Is the market even there for the current? I know some industries do a 24-hour economy already. Is the market even there for the current restricted schedules that you have in terms of first, the local market, and even export, for us to even look at this 24-hour economic program?
Now, before I talk about that, let me just make an addition to what Mr. Jackson said concerning the CD.
Yeah.
How
Q1 pressure, which is perennial.
I think there is something that we need to take note of. I have some statistics from the World Bank. In 2020, remittance inflow was about $4.3 billion. It dropped in 2021. As of 2023, it was 2.43. So if you compare 2020 to 2023 figures, it's about 1.8 billion drop. And you ask yourself, why is this happening? If you look at it, it is not that remittances really has dropped. It's because the system of transferring the money into the country has changed. They are using digital means. When people send money, it comes to our mobile phones in the form of CDs. People have set up
the Vostro accounts and all the rest.
And it's the real dollars of foreign currency. It's not entering the market. So the monies are coming, but they are not entering the market. And that is why you see that significant drop in the statistics. What do we do to make sure? And we can use technology and policy to prevent this, so that all these inflows will come to show up your city. I think it's one area that the government can quickly look at. And Bank of Ghana can play a key role. And we have technology people who can help us track all this and make sure that whoever is sending money in terms of remittances, you actually receive the money, the physical cash, locally before it's distributed to the appropriate individuals. So I think that's one area. I mean, some of the easy ways of handling issues. I mean, we call it the hanging fruit. You should plug those ones. And then, of course, the long-term effect of reducing importation, so that if you are producing a lot of the goods locally, your pressure on importation will go down, pressure on your CD will go down, then you can have stability. So that's long-term. But it all requires planning and long-term thinking. Now, on the question of the 24-hour economy, as has been said, usually it's demand-driven. I also appreciate that and acknowledge that there are certain sectors that lends itself to 24-hour business. Some of them we are already operating. Others we should actually, because it's a policy, government can look at it. If you take the ICT industry, I mentioned the business processing outsourcing. It's a major, major good business area. In fact, there's a projection that by 2030, we'll be generating about 525 billion. That's the global business arrangement globally. And in that sense, Ghana can position itself, as India and Philippines have done. And in those countries, they've actually positioned themselves as manufacturing or software manufacturing countries. We can do the same in Ghana. Fortunately, because of the different time zones, we can be working 24 hours and be supplying inputs to countries across the world. We have reasonably well-educated people. We have a lot of universities here. We have young people who are prepared to learn. There are institutions that have been established to train young people. That area alone can lend itself to the 24-hour economy easily. So those ones, we need to pick it. There are certain service areas, like taxi systems, restaurants, nightclub. Those are naturally 24-hour economy, night operating areas. But for the businesses, if you take manufacturing, for example, it's purely demand-driven. Some are already operating it if there's demand. They run 2 shifts, they run 3 shifts, depending on the demand. So if you don't tackle the demand side, it will be very difficult to push the 24-hour economy. However, I think that initially when it was mentioned during the campaign, we were engaged on this and we expressed these sentiments. But then later it was explained that there will be other policy prescriptions that would, as Mr. Jackson said, it will be a deliberate effort. They will pick specific sectors, specific companies, specific businesses that they will support to achieve that. And that, for me, is okay. However, in doing so, we need to look at the general macroeconomic environment. The stability of your CD is key. A predictable business environment is key. Business can invest more, and then you drive demand. How do you drive demand? Make sure that the economy is generally okay, and then purchasing power will go up. If purchasing power goes up and people are buying, naturally 24-hour will set in. The logistics of making it to work is one thing. So, for example, you provide the necessary security so that people can move around in the night and work. That is all good. But that is all very much dependent on the demand. So I think that what government can do very well is that let's have the stability we are talking about. Let's have confidence in the system. Let's push the financial sector in a way that provides the needed loans and facilities for industries to produce. When you have all this in place and the demand is there, then the other logistics that government has to provide, if they provide it, then you have 24 hours.
How is the sector doing right now when it comes to even the current structure that you have, production and demand, and even first local market and even the ECOWAS market as well? Because even if in the current structure, you're not getting demand for what you're producing, you have to export. How does the 24-hour economy even makes it worse, where there might be an oversupply on the market? And I'll come to the housing industry because an oversupplied product on the market, you know the implications.
I think the bottom line is about competitiveness. If you produce in the right volumes, in the right quality, and at the right price, then you can have a market share. And that market share is what will drive your production. It's as simple as that. That's basic economics. And therefore, if you look at it today, we have influx of imports, competing unfairly with our local producers. So the first thing is that, and a lot of our, if you go to our shopping malls and our shopping, about 70% of the products we are consuming in this country is imported, unfortunately, even though we have industries. In the West Africa sub-region, Ghana is one of the key manufacturing companies, like manufacturing countries. If you compare to other countries, we are one of the, but even us, we still import so much. And therefore, if you're asking of the current situation that there's so much imports, and therefore find a way to reduce the imports. If you reduce the imports, you drive local production and you drive local demand. And the way to do it is to make sure that the local producers are producing at a competitive price. They can only produce at a competitive price when the cost of production is reasonable. If I'm paying loans of, policy rate is 27%. How much am I borrowing?
The guy will tell you borrowing at a very high rate, 15 and 35%,
And then cost of energy is high, and all the other factors of production. A lot of my raw materials are imported. When I'm importing, by the time I finish clearing and producing, the exchange rate has made the raw material so high, and therefore sending the money back, I'm struggling. I have to increase the price. I'm not producing at a competitive price. So that's the difficulty. You need to deal with those macroeconomic issues and position the businesses such that they are producing at the most competitive price and gain market share. If they gain market share, they will produce more. And then the 24
Mr. Megai, but for someone like real estate, it's something that should bring an excitement. You can complete your building on time and all those things. does it bring you some excitement, or, you know, those teething questions are still when it comes to this whole 24-hour economy, that the president is saying that would be one of the pivots or the rolling point for the reset of the economy?
I think if you look at our input needs, it creates an opportunity for, again, Mr. Akwabua's major group, which is manufacturing. It can be done 24 hours. There's a lot of demand for certain products that we are not getting on time and in the quantity and the quality that we want. And then the industry construction itself, there are opportunities for 24 hours. There was, I think, 2008, I was in China, and I was in a hotel. I was in that hotel for 2 weeks. There was just a construction going on next door. No stop.
Yeah. 24
hours. And within that 2 weeks that I stayed there, I saw 3 floors being added on because of the technology they are using and also the 24-hour implementation. So the opportunities are there. But as he's saying, there are certain fundamentals that must be sorted out. You cannot leave these fundamentals and come and create policies to address a 24-hour economy. These fundamentals will still come back to hurt you. And therefore, this thing must be fixed. Sometimes when it is fixed, you may not even need too many of the 24-hour economy policy. The normal operation time will be enhanced. If I'm in real estate, I'm building 10 houses and the macroeconomic situation is better, I get more people buying. All I have to do is to increase the number of workers who are buying my house then. So I put more guys on the work. So I will absorb unemployed youth into the system without necessarily operating the 24-hour economy. But the 24-hour economy opportunity is also there. But if we don't fix the fundamentals are the 12-hour, 8-hour, 15-hour economy are facing today are not fixed or given some attention, that 24-hour economy will not sustain.
Let's come, as you try and wrap up, let's still come back to the bit about the Ghana city. And I just want to push that thing to you. And that there is a perennial pressure that comes up Q1. Businesses are restocking and all the rest. What is your expectation of this administration in dealing with the city challenge? How is this optimism also going to feed into that? Because some will say that it's about inflation, it's about the city. When these two things are managed well, it will trickle down, things will turn around, and we can even do 48-hour economy, some will say.
I think there's a bit of it about policy. Ghana, we are very good at enacting laws and policies, but its implementation always becomes a challenge. You go to South Africa and you pull $1 from your pocket and everybody's running away. Over here, when you put the dollar, everybody's chasing the dollar. So we need to fix those issues. Why is it possible that they are doing it without people dollarizing the economy and do it the way they are supposed to and are surviving? I'm not saying because my industry is, it's always dollarizing, pricing, indexing it to the dollar. But if the economy is good, I will not need to price my housing in dollar. So I think we need to fix those issues as much as possible to make it okay for me to transact my business without needing the dollar. But if it is not, and as I explained to you earlier, I start my house, I'm buying cement at this price, I'm middle there, I'm buying at that price. I cannot continue to do business and price it in the city without indexing it to the dollar. Because by 1 year, when I have finished building the house, if my investment into the house is 100 cedis, I may end up selling or pricing it and then getting 80 cedis from it. That means I'm going to lose capital.
Mr. Amagaya, but this is an industry that you import a lot. Yeah. Is it the bit about cost, availability of products, or what? Is it that Mr. Akwabua's members cannot produce the things, the door logs, those things you need so much? What is the problem that see you guys being so much exposed to the FX and dollars in terms of the raw materials, production, if I can use those in this quote, for building those houses?
You see, Mr. Akwabua was making a very valid point, telling you that the kind of policies and the taxations does not engender local production. And when you end up setting up a factory and producing a particular product, by the time you say jack, there is an influx of importation which is being priced far lower.
Door locks, cheaper ones from China coming in.
That is the problem. We used to have companies like Ceramica Tamaklo that was trying to produce some ceramic tiles. What happened to him? I mean, in fact, there are a lot of examples of industries that were trying to supply things for the local building industry that were not able to survive because of competition, unfair competition, and the environment itself, which is not friendly. So if we can fix these things to make it possible for industries to grow, local industries, to manufacture what we need, why do we rely 70% on the things that we need to build our common houses? We need to move away from that.
Mr. Kobo, I charge to you. Deal with that, because they want to buy your stuff
What to buy? If
to
it's
build their buildings. Mr. Kobo.
Why not? And on the question of the exchange rate, and the city,
How should we deal with it?
how do we deal with it? I think that we should look at it from different angles. First, the immediate measures. I will look at it from short-term or immediate terms to medium and then long-term. Immediately, what has to be done is that we know Bank of Ghana monitors the system, knows when there's a peak in the demand or pressure on the city. Right intervention at the right time is key, so that you take out the speculative element. A little bit of what we've experienced over the years is that anytime you wait and the pressure on the city becomes so high, people start speculating. People who don't need the dollar take it and go and hide it, and it creates more problems. So if you're able to avoid that, it helps to reduce the pressure on the city. Then immediately afterwards, you have to look at, I mentioned the remittances, how do we handle that? What do we do to reduce the use of the dollarization in the system? That is so very important. There's another policy that we think, and AG have been talking about it for some time now, we think is critical to deal with this city thing, and that is at the ports. At the ports, every 2 weeks, Bank of Ghana gives a new rate that is used in calculating the import duty, because it's also based on dollars. It's dollarized. And remember that both the finished goods and the imported raw materials are all coming from abroad. When you do that, you are always increasing your prices because the dollar is always changing.
Yeah.
And when it happens, like your cost of production is going up, it affects your cost of production, it affects your prices, then it worsens it. The worst part of it, of this particular issue I'm talking about, is government's own debt. When you do that and your CD depreciates, in dollar terms, your CD is just ballooning.
Yeah.
So you are always indebted to your creditors, and therefore it must be dealt with. In the long term, we need to look at how to increase local production. And in doing so, local production, you need to deepen the value chains. When you say manufacturing, I work with manufacturers. We are not talking about scratching the surface and packaging and you say manufacturing. Deepen it. So the value chains, a lot of the product that we can produce, the raw materials locally. Let's focus. That's why agriculture is key. And linking agriculture to industry is key. So that if you say you have produced this item, about 80% of it is produced locally. That is proper manufacturing. Even if you do 50%, that is fine. But you don't import the raw material to almost finished stage, package it and say manufacturing. And therefore, when you do that, you reduce the pressure on your city because you are not importing so much. So that is a long term. But that one you have to plan. But the immediate thing is to use take out the speculative element, Bank of Ghana intervene at the right time, and a few things to ensure that we don't over-dollarize our economy. When you're going to buy anything, if Mr. McGiver is pricing his
house at this Legon,
the only way out
$500,000.
If he doesn't mention that, he can't survive. So we should gradually move away from that.
I don't think dollars.
It doesn't matter, but the city, we need more of the city at every point.
But as we wrap up, I mean, your final charge to the president, I mean, if someone who watches Joy News as well, what is your final pitch to him? Mr. President, you made a call to us. ABCD, we are on board with you to help transform and restore the economy. Let me start with you first, Mr. Magaibo. Your charge to the president in the call. He made a call. You responded. What should be the key focal area for him to get the private sector on board, to get real estate on board, to help in his efforts to restore the economy?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier that this is about consultation. We've had discussions, several in the past. We discuss a lot of things, we agree on things, and when it comes to implementation, only 5% or 10% comes on board. I think we have to move away from that. Industry's input into policy development is very critical. If we don't get our policies right, it will come back to hurt us. some policies have been enacted, laws have been passed. The back-end regulation is not there. So they are not biting. That means it's half-baked. And people are taking advantage of it and are messing up in the system. We need to run them concurrently, if possible. If not possible, in the short to medium term, something should be done about the back-end, regulation to make sure that the laws are biting and are effective. Then one thing we lose sight of is when you have effective laws and policies, it goes a long way to sanitize the players in the industry. It also goes a long way to promote businesses and boost investor confidence. Then one thing that people forget about is adjudication. Investors don't like investing in an environment where it's hostile, and yet when they get problems, they don't know where to go. There are situations where our judges will have to get certain industry experts to go and help them adjudicate because there is no regulation or regulator for certain aspects of the sector. I think this government should look at these issues and reduce it as much as possible.
Mr. Kwabwa, your final pitch to the president, he made a call to you, you responded, what should be a key area that he should look at if you want industry on board to help him in his plan to reset the economy?
I think the president and the government has a good advantage. They enjoy a great deal of goodwill, and therefore when you have such massive support, then you should be able to do a lot of good things. I think that they should think long-term rather than immediate quick fixing. Because the challenge we've had in the country is that there's a tendency, because in 4 years' time, you're going back to the people and asking for votes.
In 3 years' time or something.
Yes.
So even 2 years.
It's such a short time.
Yeah.
So the tendency is to think of how to please the people immediately. When you do that, you never develop. So we should think long-term. Our policies should be long-term planned, and therefore, whatever you execute this year and next year will be part of the bigger agenda that you want to achieve. I think that is very important. The question of linking industry to agriculture is key because, as I said, you deepen manufacturing. Agriculture is key, but the linkage is key because otherwise, all these manufacturing firms we are setting up, if you don't have the local materials, you struggle to do it. And in that case, I must mention that we must be deliberate about our policies. We are a developing economy. We are not a developed economy. And therefore, there are so many things that are working against us. We have to be deliberate about intervening. If we say, let's leave everything to market forces, it doesn't always work, not in our part of the economy. There are certain areas we must allow the free market system to work. But there are certain areas interventions are key, especially if we are talking of manufacturing and industry and agriculture development. So these are very key things that he must do. The final point is that he has already pledged to engage us. We've had the opportunity of meeting him even before the swearing in, and he pledged to engage us. He says it's going to be an economic dialogue, national economic dialogue, and Nigeria is going to play a key role. We expect this to happen. And then when he met us prior to the elections, he also promised that he will be engaging us almost every quarterly or half yearly. We will welcome that. We know that his schedule may not allow that frequent meeting, but then through his ministers and appointees, we should be able to engage a lot more. And then draw on various issues, because industry have practical experiences, practical knowledge that they can bring to bear. And together we can work and develop this country.
Indeed, together we can work to develop the economy. I know the debate will still go on in your offices and homes about how to better deal with making the environment right for the private sector to grow and actually be that engine of growth. This has been PM Express Business Edition as you try to assess the pitch by President John Mahama to the private sector. Have a great day. I've been engaging Mr. Chum Kwabwa. He's the Chief Executive of the Association of Ghana Industries, and also Mr. Magaibo. He's the Chief Executive Secretary of the Real Estate Association as well, and also Joe Jackson, Chief Executive of DLF Finance. It's been PM Express Business Edition. Have a great day.
The name crab, what does it mean?
I don't know how you want to turn it, but the name crab It's just cotton.